Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about the Bitcoin halving and how long after the halving event does it take for Bitcoin to moon. Let's get it. So the first thing I want to bring up is that the Bitcoin halving that we have coming up is coming up in April of next year. This is a big deal for all crypto enthusiasts. Everybody watches this that's in crypto. I guarantee you the whales are watching this every cycle because they have 10, 20, 50, 100,000 Bitcoin. So this is kind of a big deal. Pretty much the reason behind why everybody watches this halving event is because shortly after the halving event, that's when the crypto bull market starts. The crypto bull market on average usually lasts for about a year to 2 years. But the real question is, how long does it take until Bitcoin starts mooning, meaning it goes past its previous all-time high after the halving event? So we got about 7 months until the next one, but let's take a look at some of the previous ones. So I was actually personally involved in the last crypto bull run. I can tell you guys right now, I made well over 5 figures in native crypto alone. And basically, I ended up getting in right after the halving, not really realizing the significance of it. And it was kind of a wasted opportunity because, I mean, yes, I did make some money, but not nearly as much as I could have made. I could tell you guys the maximum potential of what I could have made, but it's kind of pointless at this point. Let's just put it like this: it would have been a heck of a lot more than I made in the last bull runs. So, and when I say more, I mean like probably 50 to 100x more. But so the previous halving. And again, the reason why we're looking at this is because the idea here is you want to know when the halving is because that gives you a time frame of how long you have left to actually buy crypto or anything like Bitcoin miner stocks or crypto ETFs or anything like that, grayscale trust funds, native crypto, whatever the case may be, because it allows you to calculate a window of time that you would have left to be able to purchase crypto before it starts pushing into all-time highs. Um, so as of right now, kind of what we think is that we probably like our window time frame left to be able to buy crypto before Bitcoin starts pushing its previous all-time highs would be roughly about maybe 11 to 12 months, um, maybe 10 at the very least, 14 at the most. So we'll say roughly somewhere between 10 to 14 months. So let's go ahead and look at this. So the previous halving was in May of 2020. We can go back here on the halving clock just to verify it to be sure. So you guys, don't think I'm just making this up. It says the third halving, which was the recent one, was in May of 2020. And so from May of 2020, we'll actually scroll this back a little bit so you guys can see the previous halving or the previous peak. I mean, from the 2017 bull run was right here at about 20K. So from the halving event to Bitcoin basically reaching the previous all-time high price, it was roughly about 6 months later. So that was the previous halving. Now we're going to go back to the one before that, which was in July of 2016. So you guys are going to have to give me a sec on this. I'm going to have to really zoom out here because this is kind of how ridiculous these peaks are. But this is the nature of crypto. It's very volatile, and if you know how to play it right, you can really make a lot of money. So we got July 2016. As you can see here, this is basically when the halving took place right here, July 2016. But again, we got to zoom out to find out when the previous price peak was. So the previous peak was in December 2013 at around just over $1,100. So we'll zoom back in here, July 16, if I can find it. Yeah, July 9, 2016. So pretty much right in this time frame. So we're going to go ahead and do the little measurement thing here. And there's your previous peak right there, roughly about just shy of $1,200. So once again, it took roughly about 6 to 7 months after the halving for Bitcoin to start popping off to new all-time highs. Now, keep in mind, Bitcoin is going to be moving up before it gets to pushing its all-time highs. So you might want to actually maybe shave a couple of months off of this time frame. So if you think it's going to end up popping off or hitting new all-time highs in 6 months, maybe reduce that down to 4 months just to say, okay, um, I would basically have 4 months to, if it was going to hit the previous all-time high in 6 months, I would have 4 months to get in at the most ideal prices. Because once Bitcoin starts pushing all-time highs, I mean that you're gonna have to pay more money for basically less Bitcoin or whatever crypto you're buying, assuming that it's mooning. So we'll take a look at the first halving. I mean, in November 2012. So we're gonna go all the way back here to November 2012. As you guys can see, Bitcoin really had a small peak compared to the most recent ones on this halving. Wow, it's really small. I can barely even zoom into it. So the first halving was right about here at about $12 per Bitcoin. So November 2012. The previous peak, well, there actually really wasn't one. So we'll just say November 2012. And pretty much, okay, so November to April is when it looks like it peaked out. So I guess we can't really include this one. We can basically include the first two, but from the halving to the peak, um, it was about 6 months, and then of course we had. Well, I guess the real peak would be over here, so it was a much longer bull run. But you would have thought buying it at $12 and it peaking out at $270 that would have been the peak, right? But it actually wasn't. So this should give you guys a rough estimate of just how long you would have from the time of the halving until Bitcoin starts pushing all-time highs to be able to get in for relatively cheap prices. So basically, from now until the halving, you would have roughly about another 6 months to buy, and then maybe another 4 to 6 months after that before it starts getting really expensive to buy Bitcoin. And here's the reason why I bring that up. I'm going to get all the way back to the previous all-time highs. So let's just assume for a second that in October of next year, so about 6 months after the halving, that Bitcoin's sitting at $70,000 a Bitcoin. I mean, do you really want to buy Bitcoin at $70,000, or do you want to buy it right now at $27,000? I mean, it's pretty expensive at 70,000. But there is actually one other thing I wanted to pull up. We're going to take a look at a couple of the altcoins, really popular altcoins, to try to compare when altcoins pop off versus Bitcoin. So one that everybody loves is Ethereum. We're going to take a look at that as well. And just so you guys know, full disclosure, I do actually own some Ethereum. I'm not going to disclose in this video how much, but I do actually have some. So just kind of get all the indicators lined up here. Okay, so just gonna have to give me a second here. I gotta get the charts all lined up. So Bitcoin broke its previous all-time high in, looks like, about December of 2020. So if we take a look at the Ether chart, you guys can see here on the Ethereum chart, the previous peak on ETH was about 1440. So we would be basically looking for a break of that 1440 zone, which it looks like it pretty much happened right here in about January of 2021. So Bitcoin started pushing its all-time highs in November of 2021. So this basically happened pretty much about 2 months after Bitcoin started breaking its all-time highs. So that would have been for the previous bull run. I can get more into this in later videos, but to keep it relatively short and simple and concise here, we're pretty much just talking about Bitcoin here. But this would give you guys some rough estimate of how long you would have to purchase Bitcoin versus altcoins, when comparing the Bitcoin halving to it pushing to new all-time highs. So the previous Litecoin peak was at, well, I mean, okay, it didn't really actually peak until basically, well, pretty much about the same time or shortly after Bitcoin peaked. But we won't use that as a metric on Litecoin because it's kind of an anomaly. Again, Litecoin is an oscillator to Bitcoin. It's not something that has necessarily really ever kind of popped off on its own. So we'll take this little mini bull market peak here of 145 to give us a rough estimate of roughly when Litecoin starts popping off. So you can see that Litecoin started going up roughly about the same time that Bitcoin did, but it didn't break that previous peak until roughly about a month after Bitcoin started pushing back past its previous all-time highs. So these are pretty much the three main ones here: Bitcoin, ETH, and Litecoin. We'll take a look at some different altcoins at a later point in time, but yeah, anyways, if you guys have any questions, leave it in the comments below. If you have any comments to make or any suggestions, let us know. We'll try to cook something up for you. But yeah, this is pretty much the Bitcoin halving and how long you could pretty much expect to be able to buy at cheap prices between the halving event and Bitcoin pushing past its previous all-time highs. So if y'all enjoy the content, please let us know. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.